Good evening, everyone, and welcome to Expressions, the podcast. We are on season 4, episode 4, and we are, there's only 3 of us. So we're Seanless tonight. And as you can see, I have the whole bottom row to myself. I have lots of wing room here. The green, just like when you get on a plane and nobody else gets in your row. So, fuck yeah.
Are you trying to say that Sean just gets in your way?
Well, he's a little elbowy. His elbows are kind of sharp when he gets it. So.
You realize the last time he wasn't on our show, we fake fired him.
Yeah, that's true. But we didn't fake fire him. He just could not be here. He had other games. So we didn't fake
No, this time we really fired him.
Yeah, and he promised to bring his A game next time, which is good because I'm just going to bring my C or D game. So
he'll compensate.
I think that'll be good. Alrighty, so tonight we are talking about television shows. So specifically, television shows that we either loved so much that we've watched all of the seasons, all of the episodes, and then potentially rewatch them, which I know is the case for me in many series that we've had. And then series that maybe we started watching that we didn't love so much. I hesitate to use the word hate, but maybe loathe entirely would be good. I'm not sure, but we will definitely talk about that. But before we get into loathe entirely, that's right. We will. I want to say hi to my co-hosts this evening, Bryan and Aurora. Bryan, how are you this evening?
I'm awesome. I'm sore, but I'm awesome. I had a really busy shooting weekend this past weekend. Did a couple events for Barry Wrestling and for Destiny, both huge events, like really went over very well. The promotions of wrestling, indie wrestling, are just out of control right now. There's so many really cool things out there. So I encourage anybody who's watching, if you haven't been to an independent wrestling event, find one near you and check it out because they are ridiculously fun. Some of them are very kid friendly, like Barry Wrestling is very kid friendly, where Destiny is more adult. There's beer and drinks and people puking sometimes. That only happened once. But there's some craziness that can happen at these shows, and they're a lot of fun. So I highly encourage people to check them out. And if you want to know what they look like, check out Weiss Shot Me, and you can see all the photos that I post from these events and get an idea of what they're all about.
Yeah, I encourage you to check that out. Some of the portraits that Bryan posted that I saw online there are just phenomenal.
I got my bucket list photo.
Yeah, that bucket list photo with the guy that says he's the presidential candidate there. Just
Mustafa Ali.
That photo is amazing. That is one of those portraits where you look at it, or at least I look at it and think, I wish I took that photo.
I watched him pose, and I thought, I wish I took that photo. And then I looked at my camera and I thought, oh my God.
There you go. Wait, I did take it. Awesome. Excellent. And Aurora, how have you been?
I've been good. I've been keeping busy. I'm pretty tired because there's a lot that I have to do on a regular basis. Like I have 2 jobs, and then I do
2 jobs,
and then I shoot on the side. So I've been doing some editing and stuff for that as well, and then wedding planning, we're like at 7 months away from the wedding now, so it's just like I feel like every day that goes by is like counting down to the wedding, and I'm getting like little. Anytime somebody says a date, I just kind of get like a little panic. Today's March 5th. Ooh, okay. That's it. It's exactly like at this point, it's exactly 7 months before the wedding. So I'm like,
alrighty.
Yeah.
So you're getting married October 5th, is that correct? Then?
October 5th.
Is that math it right?
Yeah.
Take that.
Kind of crazy.
Yeah, you're a little bit busy. I just have one job, so I'm doing pretty good. Although I have been shooting lately. I shot hockey last weekend. Well, actually, the last 2 weekends in a row, I've shot hockey. So that was fun. Learning a little bit more. I now wish I had taken the day tripper photo hockey session when it was available.
That was an awesome session.
Anyways, yeah. So not much of a hockey fan. I do know how it's played, so which is important when you're dealing with shooting sports, because to know how it's played, it's easier to follow the action than to not know how it's played and wonder what the heck is going on. So
yeah, very true.
Awesome. Alrighty. So
but your photos were very good, Mark. You shared some with me, and they were great. Your whites were white.
You.
That's the hardest part about shooting hockey, is getting that white to be white.
Yeah.
Everybody ends up with like grayish or bluish or something.
Yeah.
And then your shutter speed was correct because your sharpness was good. So they look good to me, man.
Yeah, except for the second two games that I shot. One was kids, so shutter speed was good as well. But then the third one was men's hockey, and those guys are fucking maniacs.
Yeah.
And I really needed to up my shutter speed. I think probably by at least another 100. And I might have maybe would have frozen the action on that one. But yeah, I had a lot of motion blur in those photos. Some of them were just the stick motion blur, which is fine because it's what's moving real fast. But some of them, and you see the puck is like a streak instead of a dot, but some of those were pretty challenging. But none of those will ever see the light of day. I just took them to see how the settings work because I changed some things with ISO and things like that. So.
Cool. It's fun though, practicing.
Yeah.
Making bad photos, making mistakes. I find that's more rewarding than going out and making a bunch.
Definitely can be. That's we should have done a photography show since Sean's not here.
I know.
But that's anyway, so we will do that another time. Anyways, let's talk about television, shall we? So, let's think about a couple of TV shows and any genre. It doesn't matter whether it be a comedy or a mystery or a suspense TV show or something that you've enjoyed. I've got a couple top of mind that I really enjoyed that I've watched. I've even got one that I started watching and really enjoyed watching it, and then sort of it died off, and then and I stopped watching it. And then there's others that I started watching and was like, no, not doing this. So let's start. Bryan, do you have a show or two that you loved to watch and have maybe even rewatched the seasons of?
I'm trying to remember the one with the motorcycles. The gang. Sons of
Anarchy, yeah.
That one, I think, is a show that I probably could watch over and over again. But at the same time, some of the episodes were so brutal that I can't watch some things, right? But it's not because I hate the episode or I hate the show. But some episodes, like The Walking Dead even, for example. Love The Walking Dead.
Yep.
But one episode in particular, I will never watch again. You know what I mean? Like, and if you watch the show,
have anything to do with Glenn?
It might have had something to do with Glenn.
Might have had, yeah.
Not to give any spoilers.
I feel that right here.
I'll never watch that episode again. That's just disgusting, over the top, unnecessarily so.
Yeah,
it's a TV show. It's not a horror movie.
Yeah, true. It was a pretty graphic episode.
Yeah, but I love the show. But as far as things I've hated. It's funny because Aurora and I today, we work together. So like we were talking today at work and I mentioned a show Lost that I hate. And she goes, well, you can't hate it because she knows I've never watched it. So, but there's a conversation I think to be had there. Like, can you hate something you haven't seen? I guess the answer is no, technically. But at the same time, the idea of the show I'm not interested in. Everything I've heard people talk about the show was, it was okay at points and everybody was interested in it. And then the ending comes along and it was horrible, worst ending of TV of all time, apparently, which I've never seen, of course. So I feel like kind of rewarded in that I didn't watch it. Like, haha, you guys all fell for it and I didn't have to. You know what I mean? Like, so yeah, I think I do hate it for that whole concept and the premise. But again, hate is a different kind of word. So.
Yeah.
What do you guys think about that idea?
So I agree that it was. I did watch Lost. So we watched the whole thing, and then when that final episode came along, it ended, and Chris and I just went, "What the fuck was that?" Like it was. The ending was so weird and so out there that it was like, I didn't know. I'm not happy with that ending, and I think part of the way the producers do it is they do it that way on purpose, because then it gets viewership, right? People are like, oh, I gotta see it.
People are talking about it.
People talk about it, right? So
good or bad, yeah.
Negative opinion is good opinion, or it's all attention. Negative attention is attention. So yeah, I agree with that. I was the one that fell for Lost. I did like the show, like the whole run of it and the premise of the show was good. The storyline was good. It carried along. There wasn't a lot of really dull episodes. Yeah. So that
weird,
was, yeah.
And I guess the only other show I hate would be the American Horror Story. Can't watch it.
Okay. So that one's on one of my lists.
Is that the one? When I said I want to know if it's the same one, is that the same?
No.
Okay.
No, not the same one. So American Horror Story, Chris and I started watching it, and I think we watched the first, because it was all every episode was different. It wasn't the same character. Not
every
episode
season was a completely different story.
Yeah, it was a different story. And I think we watched 2 seasons of it, and then we were so excited for the 3rd season to come out. And again, 3rd season starts, we watch a couple episodes, and we're like, "What the fuck are we watching?" And it was just done. Yeah, we just couldn't watch it anymore.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Did you watch those, Aurora?
I've not watched American Horror Story or Lost, personally. I honestly, I don't really have that much of a connection with Lost, because I guess I don't know anybody who like overly loves Lost or has a strong opinion about Lost in the beginning. However, watching a show that has been on for a long time and then finding out what the ending is, I have that experience with How I Met Your Mother, the show How I Met Your Mother.
Yeah.
Did you guys watch that show all the way through and to the end?
I haven't even seen a single episode of that.
Please.
Yeah. So that ending episode, like, even now, like, that's one of the shows that I'll rewatch, because it's a good 20-minute funny.
The series is good. It's uplifting. It's funny.
Yeah, but the ending kind of diminishes big chunks of the story, and that is, I have that experience with How I Met Your Mother because of the last episode. So there is a disappointment there, right?
Yeah, I was disappointed in the ending of that one as well.
Yeah. But I mean, American Horror Story, haven't watched. I've heard things about it. It's not really the type of genre that I like. So, like, for me, watching shows, like, I like the 20-minute slice of life, little, like, funny episode kind of shows. So, like, one show I'll watch over and over again, New Girl. Absolutely love it.
With Jess, I forget her name, Zooey
Deschanel.
Yeah. I've seen a few. Yeah. That's pretty funny.
I really like Gilmore Girls. That's another one. I like Brooklyn Nine-Nine.
Yeah, Brooklyn Nine-Nine's a
Superstore. I like Community. We were actually talking about Community earlier, Bryan.
Love those.
That's one show that I love, and then Andrew's like, "Oh, I can't watch it. It's just so confusing, because there's so many storylines going on at once. It's just too much for him. Maybe not too much, but he just doesn't." Yeah.
When we were talking at the store, you mentioned the word meta, and I'm like, "What? It's on Facebook? I didn't understand that." So, I like the way you explained it, though, because it is extremely different way. The way that I'm talking about Community specifically. The way that's shot. Can you explain what you mean by that?
Yeah, so I guess I could explain. So I've heard meta in context of using it in shows and movies, and I've also heard it in the context of playing D&D, because we use meta as when, let's say, when a character is experiencing something, when a person who's playing the character is experiencing something, and it's somehow getting into the character, I guess, if that makes any sense. So having, I guess, a meta would be there's stories within stories, as well as the fact that Abed in Community, anybody who's watched Community, he understands and he knows that he's in a show, even though he's constantly breaking that fourth wall in the show, and he's talking about, this episode, it's a bottle episode, it's this, it's that, right? That can be a little much for some people. And the fact that it's that show is also just constantly spoofing off movies, TV, other episodes and stuff like that, and some people can find that to be a little much, or it's copying things too much, or whatever it may be. So I can understand why, but I also love it. It's just
Yeah.
Because how light it makes, like how they make light of it.
Yeah.
I think is what makes it so unique. It's not just a straight like copy, right?
I think Community did a lot of things, and of course there was a lot of controversy there as well because they had Chevy Chase on there, and apparently he was just a nightmare on set. They eventually wrote him out, but some of the episodes they did, I think probably my favorite episode of Community, and I think it was one. I think it spanned like 2 or 3 episodes. Was the paintball, the campus paintball, was just amazing, right? And
so smart,
and then so the blanket fort episodes.
So funny.
Yeah.
I love that show.
So good, so creative. It was a lot of fun.
This is where you have to get back to, why do you watch a show?
Yeah.
Like for me, I like to watch TV or movies, for that matter, that will help me suspend disbelief, because we watch news, we watch all the bad things that go on in the world. I don't need to watch TV and entertain myself with the same stuff.
True.
I'm not a big thriller watcher. I'm not a big horror movie watcher. I appreciate them. And when I was younger, I loved horrors. Like I loved Walking Dead, and I love zombie culture and stuff like that. I love all of the zombie movies and stuff. But you're not going to find me watching Halloween during Halloween. Shelley will, but I'll find other things to do, right?
Yeah.
So it depends on why you watch shows. Something like Community, I watch it to suspend disbelief, to have fun, to enjoy. And the acting and the banter back and forth and the writing is so clever that you watch it and you laugh out loud, and that's what I want in a show.
Yeah,
and like American Horror Story will never give me that. And
that's true. That's true. I'm a fan of both cultures. Like I'm some of the ones that I've been binge watched, and I did start watching again. Criminal Minds. I watch some
good show.
Some of the shows like that, and a lot of spin-offs, and some of them were better, some of them weren't. I was a big fan of the crime scene investigation ones, the CSIs, and some of them were better than others. You know, like the Las Vegas one was pretty good, but then there was like a CSI New York, which was okay. And then they got into Criminal Intent or was Law and Order. I never got into things like that. But I like a lot of the cop shows. Like I like the comedies. The Brooklyn Nine-Nine was a really good one. But I also am a big fan of SWAT, the TV series, which was really good. And I think it's still ongoing. There's another season out now that hasn't hit the streaming services. But so that was a good one. And it had Shamar Moore, which of course, how can you not watch Shamar Moore? He's like a gorgeous hunk of man. He's just a beautiful human, right? You
can't argue that.
Can't. Yeah. So, but yeah, it was that was a great show. And then I watched a lot of the because of Chris, we watched a lot of the medical shows. We actually just started rewatching Grey's Anatomy because she'd watched it all. So we just started rewatching that one. We've rewatched Scrubs.
It's interesting. All of the shows you are watching are all character-based shows.
Yeah.
You involve yourself in the characters. Characters go through these lifelong curves and life changes for them, and you get invested in them and stuff like that. That's awesome. But I'm not hearing anything about like reality-based shows like Cops or it's all similar concept.
Okay. So reality TV, I'm not a fan of Cops. I mean, if it's on as background noise, fine. I wouldn't sit down and knowingly watch an episode. But to watch something like Cops, or even to get into like the Big Brothers or whatever, not a huge fan. I don't like the drama that way. I don't like the especially like when you get into some of those reality TV shows where it's the contest and there's all the backstabbing and all that. I just hate that.
A whole separate thing. But what about the A&E shows?
But to watch
48 Hours and
to watch a reality TV show like a contest show, a lot of the cooking shows, there's sometimes a little bit of fighting, but for the most part, like they help each other, they elevate each other, they lift each other up. They're giving each other ideas. There's a lot of cooking shows out there.
Love that stuff.
The Final Plate that I watched that was really good. There was one that was like a pit boss one. The name escapes me, but it was in deep south, and they were like all like guys that did barbecue pits, and they gave them all kinds of challenges. Like they had to cook on an open fire, and then they had to make a fire pit in a sand pit, and they had to cook. And of course, it's windy, so they're going to get the sand off the food, and then, or they'd give them ingredients. Like they gave them like hot peppers once, and the one girl actually used a Carolina Reaper as a garnish on her, like a slice of Carolina Reaper as a garnish on her coleslaw, and the judge didn't realize and ate the whole slice of Carolina Reaper and almost burned her face off. So, it was.
That's good TV.
Yeah, like there was a lot of that, like good, and of course, as we had Chef Christina on season 1, who has continued to inspire me in the kitchen. So I'm continuing to push the boundaries of what I do in the kitchen and exploring different recipes and different methods of cooking. So
obviously, food shows are
lots of food shows. I like the comedies, but like I said, CSI, the Criminal Minds was always a good one for me. But it's interesting that Aurora, you said Gilmore Girls, and that is the one show that I could not watch. Chris would be watching it, and I'd sit down, and I'm watching them play off one another, and it was too like nobody is that quick-witted to come up with those. Like literally, it was almost like the entire script was a one-liner to me, and I'm like, yeah, that would never happen. Whereas if you watched a show like whether it be Scrubs or Friends or The Big Bang Theory, something like that, like the comedy was there and it was embedded, and there was the one-liners, but it wasn't like the whole show was just a giant one-liner rolled into a thing, and that's how I felt about it. Chris loved it. So she watched it, but every time she was watching it, I'd go play guitar or play with photos or whatever.
Yeah, I can see what you mean by that, because there's a lot of like quick wit. I think what I like about this concept is my mom had me very young, and then I can kind of relate to the fact of like having a mom who's like young, and how like that relationship kind of ties in to that. Obviously, the ending's different. Like my mom and dad were together. They didn't like decide to like go separate ways when they had me and stuff like that. And they are now separate ways, but back then they weren't, and stuff like that. So it was a very different kind of storyline, but it's just interesting to me that the general concept of that is kind of interesting.
Yeah.
But yeah, I can see what you mean, because it's like constant rolling jokes between the mother and the daughter.
Yeah. And I for one, I love sarcasm. I love good sarcasm, but it was just it was too over the top for my liking. But Bryan, Sons of Anarchy, that's one I could watch again. Walking Dead, could watch that again.
So for me, Sons of Anarchy, I've watched bits of it, but it's a really heavy show.
Yeah,
it's really hard,
like as heavy as you could possibly get.
Yeah,
and be legal.
And there's been multiple times where I had been watching that show, and I just like rage quit, could not watch it anymore. I still have not watched past, I guess, spoilers alert for anybody who hasn't watched the show, like turn it off, don't listen for the next 15 seconds. When Gemma killed Tara.
Oh my God.
I have not watched past that. Because that was just like
brutal.
Awful. Awful.
Oh
I was not expecting that. And I know I've seen like episodes past it, like because Andrew's had it on in the background. Like I've seen like clips of it, but I've not sat down and like watched consistent episodes of that show since that happened, just because it was just like I kind of liked Gemma as a character. Like there was just a lot she had been through and how tough she was, and I understood she hated people and she didn't like certain things, but to go that far.
Yeah, and who knew that Peggy Bundy was such a badass, right?
Yeah, she earned a whole different following from that show.
Oh, I know.
I mean, that's a good thing to bring up. If Aurora's done with her point, of course. But the characters in one show, how they can be so bold and strong, like she is in Sons, and then you go watch her back in Married with Children.
Yeah.
It's such a different character.
Yeah, different character.
Amazing.
Yeah, and the just the evolution of the actor and the craft, right? So like, who knew, right?
And who also knew she was an amazing singer.
Yeah, right.
Like, she is a super talent for sure.
Okay, so I've got shows that I love. I've got shows that I hate. Well, some shows that I kind of hate. So, have you ever started watching a show and like not liked it, and then stopped watching it, and then like a year or two later tried watching it again? And
yeah.
so Brooklyn Nine-Nine was one of those shows for me.
Okay.
So like I watched the first episode. It had to be like 4 or 5 times before I could actually get into the show and like get past that first episode, because I didn't like the fake documentary.
Okay.
Of the zoom in, zoom out, oh, it was too much for me, so I couldn't get past that. As much as it was kind of like funny. The Office as well. It took me a very long time to get into The Office, and still to this day, like from season 1 to like a few episodes into season 2 is still like to this day, like I'll rewatch that show, but there are many episodes from season 1 to the beginning of season 2 that I just can't watch. Like the episode where I think it's like season 2 episode 1 where like Michael tries to kiss Oscar, and it's like all about, I don't know if any of you guys know, but it's just crossing too many lines. And another one where he like he promises to give tuition to a bunch of kids, and then when they're ready to graduate college, he goes in, he has to explain to the kids after they do this whole presentation that he can't give them tuition because he made a promise. He made a promise that he couldn't keep because he. Sorry. Yeah,
I said the T word.
You did, yeah.
So there's so many episodes I just like to this day I cannot watch that. I cannot watch that episode because it just makes me cringe. So
The Office I could never get into. I tried, and because a lot of people were talking about it, I'm like, oh, cool. So thought I'd give it a try, and I
found it rude humor. I found it to be crass, and people like that I wouldn't want to work with, so I couldn't watch it.
Yeah.
Interesting. Once you get past that, like few episodes into season 2, like it's into really good stuff. But
the problem is if you had to get to season 2 for it to get good.
Yeah, it's true. It's true.
So and the one for us like that was Chris and I started watching. Oh my God, why is his name? Breaking Bad. So Chris and I started watching Breaking Bad, and we watched season 1. We watched season 1, and then season 2 starts, and we're both sitting like right opposite ends of the couch. We both got our iPad, and we're like, and it's playing, right? And I look out over at her, and she's and I'm scrolling, and I'm like, "Are you watching this?" She's like, "No, I thought you were watching this." I'm like, "I'm not watching it." And she's like, "Oh, let's find something else." it just sort of, we lost interest in the whole thing. It was like, nah.
That's funny because that show, I didn't watch it at all while it was on the air. It was over, and then I started watching it, and I binge watched it in maybe just like a week. I watched the entire.
Oh man.
Maybe a little more than a week, but like I binge watched that show, and I couldn't stop watching it. I loved it.
I can't get past the, like I tried watching that. That's another one that's like I would put in my column of hate because it's just too grotesque. I couldn't get past when he tried to melt the body in the tub and then it got all over the house. Gross. Like you know what I'm talking about. Like that was just disgusting. So I would say like in like the realm of things that I hate, there's a couple of shows that I've tried to watch a few times and they're still in the column of hate, but maybe I won't if I try again. Parks and Rec, Arrested Development, those are 2.
Yeah, Arrested Development was one that never flew for me.
And then because I've heard it's kind of like the 20-minute laugh type of show, but I try to watch it. I just Parks and Rec and
like the characters.
Arrested Development can't. Breaking Bad is another one I guess is going to be on that list because I just can't get past the grossness.
Yeah.
I put CSI on here because I've watched episodes of CSI, but there's so many like like, I really love Criminal Minds. I love that, like, how it makes you think about, like, why the killer is doing what they're doing. But CSI doesn't really have that so much.
No.
And it just seems like
I'm going to throw
almost
this,
like a cash grab.
I'm going to throw this one out there. With knowing what we know about photography and video, the one thing that always bugs me is when any one of those crime TV shows is like, oh, we've got the video footage, and oh, we'll freeze it. Oh, zoom in on that car. Okay, it's all pixels. Go ahead, enhance it, and they digitally enhance the license plate, and it's a crystal clear picture. Okay, fuck off. That does not happen.
That does not happen.
Like, I don't care what the AI is, it's not getting that blue blob to say 1, 2, 3, 4, A7, 8, 2. You know,
oh my god.
Yes, so absolutely.
Like, and Chris gets that way too with the medical shows, right? We'll be watching a medical show and she'll be like, yeah, that doesn't happen, right?
See, I thought you were going to talk
about what we will not watch, because I want to talk about what we will not watch. Like you mentioned Lost, Bryan, but is there anything else on your list that like you cannot watch or you will not watch?
There's a lot. I can't think of everything. Like, I don't watch a lot of shows because, I hate to say it, wrestling's on. So the wrestling channel's on. And when wrestling channel's on, Shelly's watching wrestling. And if Shelly's watching wrestling, then usually that's what I'll have on. Otherwise, I'll just leave the room and come upstairs and start surfing through Netflix or, you know, I watch gold shows, Bering Sea Gold, and you know, all the gold shows with Parker and all that stuff. I watch reality shows. I watch baking shows and cooking shows and Forged in Fire and things where I can see people creating things and building things. And that's generally what I watch.
Yeah, but there's a lot of great shows on where the guys, like, people restore cars and stuff like that. I watch all of those, like the Rust to Riches and the
exactly.
I watch all of those, and some of them are better than others. And you know, like the one, the Counts Customs one is pretty cool. And you know,
I used to like Pimp My Ride. Yeah, that was kind of fun too.
Yeah, you know what? It's funny because I watched all of the Pimp My Rides were on. I think they were on Amazon when we signed up for it, and we watched all of those all the way through. And then, of course, from Pimp My Ride, it went into West Coast Customs. We watched all of those, or at least I did. Chris watched the ones that she was home for. But it's interesting the different shows that we watch. We'll wait till Aurora comes back, and then we'll talk about what we're currently watching. But some of the ones, like Chris has watched, I think all of the RuPaul Drag Races.
Okay, I can't watch that.
And I don't mind watching it. Like, she'll put it on. Like, she's like, "Oh, you watch something else?" I'm like, "Yeah, it's fun. It's campy.
Nope.
I'm entertained." But so I'll watch that. And
I want to touch on that for a second. I will not watch those shows. I hate them, and for no other reason than I don't like big flamboyant personalities. I don't like ego. I don't like people saying, "Look at me." It's just who I am. It has nothing to do with sexuality or anything like that. I'm indifferent to how people are. I love all people. It doesn't matter to me. But I cannot handle ego. And a show like that, or America's Next Top Model, or any of those shows where it's about being pretty people and stuff like that, I will never watch them. Won't happen.
Yeah, and that's see, this is why they make such a variety of TV shows, right? They're never going to make one show that everybody watches. Right. There's always going to be people that are like, not like that. It's funny because we talking about shows. We're talking about shows that are series. But you mentioned earlier you watch the news, and I don't. I don't watch the news. I don't listen to the news on the radio. I don't read newspapers. Generally, I don't care. I don't want to know. I'd rather live oblivious. And if something big happens, I'll usually then what happens is you see something, somebody will post about it on Facebook or on TikTok.
Did I say I watched the news?
I think you mentioned that you watched the news. Yeah, earlier. Yeah, well, it was sort of like the royal we. You said, we watched the news, and it was you said because you didn't want to watch more of what you'd already seen.
Oh, I see what you're saying. Yeah. I meant more like if I'm going to be. We all see news. Yeah. Oh, okay. Yes, I did say that. But we all see. Like, I don't sit and watch the news because I kind of feel the same way you do about that. But when I'm at work and I'm bored, I'll definitely pull up the news and catch up on what's big and make sure that there's no nuclear bombs headed our way and stuff like that. But
I'd rather not know.
No, I gotta know, because I have my bomb shelter technique. I have my Walking Dead inspired strategy in case the world were to go to poop. So,
there you
go. Anyway, that's a whole different show. We were talking about Aurora. You were asking about shows that we just don't like. So Mark, I don't know where you went, but Mark was talking about like the RuPaul drag show, and I said I can't watch that. I can't watch that because pretty people. You know how I am about ego and stuff like that. Whenever I have somebody come in the store that's like all Mr. Fancy, I get like all like, yeah, look at this douchebag. But it's just I'm not a fan of, hey, look at me. It's not how I'm wired, So that's. What about you?
Yeah, so for me, like most reality TV, I'm a no for. I will make some exceptions for like maybe like some cooking shows and stuff like that, or.
But you don't watch Big Brother?
No. Bachelor, Bachelorette, no.
Yeah.
Like Love Island, like all that like cheesy. There's a new one. It's called the. Oh my goodness, what is it called? It's when you give somebody like the ultimatum, and stuff like that. So like absolutely not. Like there's a couple exceptions for that. Like I love The Circle. That's a good show. It's an interesting concept.
My favorite show, period.
And
period.
Okay.
I would call this like a guilty pleasure. I do like Love is Blind. That's probably the most reality TV that I'll ever get into, and I will still say it's not good. There's just too much drama, too much stuff going on, but I will still watch it because it's like one of those things that you watch and then you just can't look away. And like I started watching back when The Circle came out. Also, Love is Blind came out. And I'm like, wow, these are two really cool concepts. I don't usually watch. I never really get into reality TV, but this is making me want to watch it.
But this is pulling away the beauty part of it. This is why I think I like it so much. The Circle. It's less about beauty and more about. The Circle is a social experiment. You're all living in a house in different apartments, and the only way you can communicate with each other is through this internet, this social media, internal social media, the Circle. So you're in your room and you say, okay, Circle, send a message to so-and-so. And then you can be whoever you want to be, and whatever you want to put out there, you can be whatever you want to be. So if you're a beautiful model, you can pretend to be a 19-year-old student. Or if you're a 19-year-old student, you can pretend to be a 65-year-old man. Or, you can be whoever you want to be, and you have to be that throughout the entire competition. And everybody's trying to figure out, are you real, or are you catfish, or you can be yourself. One of the shows they had, the Spice Girls were on there pretending to be other people. So the Spice Girls, Scary Spice and Baby Spice, are actually literally living in this room, in this house.
And they were playing like a 25-year-old guy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's wild. So it's less about how pretty you are, more about how you can convince people who you are.
Was basically a show about internet chat rooms.
Yeah, but it's like the whole story. They're watching these conversations going on and their reactions to what's going on, and
so
having to take
notes. It's like chats, and then they have like little challenges and stuff. So like you'd issue a challenge to like do makeup, and they're like they bring you like a head where you can put like makeup on, right? And this is supposed to catch people who are pretending not to be themselves, right? So if this beautiful like woman who has like beautiful, makeup and style and stuff like that, hairstyles this mannequin head and puts awful makeup on this mannequin head, they're probably not who they say they are, right? Or like cake decorating, or like there's challenges where you would say like, yes, I do something, no, I wouldn't do something, and like you're trying to fish out people who are just not being sincere, I guess.
Okay.
Interesting. Or not playing the game well.
Like that. Yeah, Love is Blind is also less about physical attraction and appearance as well, right?
Yeah, the first part of it is absolutely.
Love is Blind, is that the one where they eventually get to meet people?
Yeah, so they're like in these like pods,
Okay.
So like they're
that
in
one
like
I think I've
separate
seen
rooms.
an episode or two of. Yeah.
Yeah. So like the women are on one side, the men are on the other side, and then they're in these like pods basically, where they're like talking to people and they're like speed dating. So the men move to the next room, to the next room, to the next room, and basically you start like just talking to a person, getting to know the person for who they are as a person.
Yeah.
And you can't meet them in person until like you're sure you want to marry them, and then one of them has to propose basically. And then so they meet in person and stuff, and then it's like, oh well, like is the physical attraction the same as the emotional attraction? So like they go through all that, and then it goes until basically the wedding day, so people can quit before, which happens, and then it goes until the wedding day, and then there's like a 1-year reunion episode after that, at the very end that they do. I would say like the first season is pretty good, right? Because it's like it's still a concept. After that, a lot of people go on just to become famous.
Yeah.
Right? Or they're not really in it for what it is, but it's still one of those things that like I would say it's a guilty pleasure show of mine, because I can't, like, it comes out, I'm gonna watch it because I'm curious, like what's gonna happen this time, you know? But shows I will not watch. I can't watch medical shows.
Okay, like the actual medical shows, or things like Grey's Anatomy?
Things like Grey's Anatomy, things like House, stuff like that. I've seen episodes of it, but like it gives me medical anxiety. Like I have this thing where like I get, especially when I was younger, like someone would be talking about like, oh, getting cancer or getting like, you know, like, I don't know, any type of ailment basically, and then it would just like cause me to be like, oh my gosh, do I have it? And then I think of all the different symptoms and stuff like that. So watching a show like that to me is like, I can't, because it'll throw me into anxiety.
Yeah, I totally get that.
Yeah.
Anything else that you can't watch?
I feel like in a genre aspect, like whenever somebody mixes horror with comedy, like whether it's a TV show, whether it's a movie, like things like this, the scary movies or whatever, like I can't watch. It just, there's something about it that just throws me off. And then there's another show that I tried watching certain episodes of it. I haven't watched it all the way through. It might be a little surprising because I like fantasy like things, but Game of Thrones is one of those shows that like I tried watching episodes, and it also gave me that anxious kind of feeling when I was watching it. Maybe it's because I didn't fully understand what was going on, because I was watching episodes that didn't relate to anything I knew about the story. But I haven't been able to watch it.
Yeah, I just thought of another show that's it's not the same as Game of Thrones, I know, but sort of that alley. Once Upon a Time. Did you ever watch that?
Ooh. So I've seen bits of Once Upon a Time, but I haven't watched it all the way through.
Okay. Chris and I did watch it, and that was another one of those ones where the more it got on, the more sort of out there everything got. So, I mean, I found that the earlier seasons were much better than the later seasons, and then obviously the finale. But it just, sometimes it gets too out there, right?
Yeah. Have any of you guys watched The Good Place?
Yes.
The Good Place. I love that show, but it does just progressively become unhinged and just like weirder and weirder as it goes.
I think we all needed Janet, though. I really do.
Oh my goodness, Janet's amazing.
Now I'm missing out. I gotta go check this out.
I know
watch The Good Place. It's amazing.
Yeah, watch it. Janet basically is the person that gets them anything and makes anything happen. And, it was pretty good. Here's something nobody touched on at all. Did anybody at any point in time, or even now, enjoy game shows?
Yeah.
Like whether it be Wheel of Fortune, Jeopardy.
Jeopardy. Actually, my ex brother-in-law is a Jeopardy champion, 14-time Jeopardy champion.
Wow.
He was just on the Grand Champion show this week.
Well, there you go. See?
Yeah.
And I mean, of course, Alex Trebek was from Sudbury, so you gotta give him that.
Well, this is after Alex Trebek, unfortunately.
But Alex is, I know Alex passed, but it's the original, and then of course Price is Right and Family Feud is still ongoing. But
I loved all those shows.
Yeah, they were all good, right? And of course, some of them are still going along.
My favorite is called Awake. You ever heard of this?
No, was that a game show?
It's a game show where you count quarters. You stay up for 24 hours, and then they put you in a room full of quarters, and you have to count quarters. Then you go onto the show, and it's a contest about who's closest to the actual number of quarters they counted.
Interesting.
So you literally sit there and you count the quarters, and you're trying to remember. You can't write down things. You can't make notes. You have to remember how many quarters you've counted after not having slept for 24 hours.
I'd be awful at this.
Yeah, it's a really funny game. And some of the things that these people say when they're sleep deprived, and because not only do they stay awake for 24 hours, but then they have to count the quarters and they're awake for all that, and then they go on the show. So we're talking like who knows how many hours at this point.
Yeah.
Right? So funny show. I love that. That's my favorite game show.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah. So and it's funny. We talk about shows that we watch. Then anybody ever tried to go back and watch a show that you remember from your childhood?
Funny you should ask, because one of the questions I have is shows that you loved and now you can't watch. There's a lot of shows. Like The Greatest American Hero was one of my favorite shows.
Yeah, and now you watch it, you're like,
horrible.
Yeah,
it's so bad.
Knight Rider was one. I watched a bunch of episodes of Knight Rider, and I was like, I'm not watching this anymore.
They did not age well. 80s shows did not age well.
Yeah, Airwolf. Do you remember Airwolf?
Yes, I do remember Airwolf.
I gotta watch Airwolf. It's gonna be it wasn't. It wasn't
really.
I'm not doing it.
Stealth mode.
Yeah, a helicopter that makes no noise. Sure.
Yeah, I don't know. Like shows from my childhood that just does not.
I watched Beavis and Butthead. I thought it was the funniest thing ever. And I go back to watch that today, and I'm like, no, stupid.
Yeah. Well, it shows how you mature as a person too, right? And,
well, I usually regress in that department, so I don't know if that's the case. What about like Dexter?
Never. You know what? Dexter's one of those ones I always wanted to watch, and I just never. I guess it never popped up on a streaming service, and I started watching it or something.
I think it held up pretty good, actually. I enjoyed that show.
Yeah, I should probably watch it. Because I do enjoy the cop shows and stuff like that. So is there any from your childhood, Aurora, that you've tried to rewatch or that you'd like to rewatch?
Interesting question. I haven't really thought about this.
Fraggle Rock.
I haven't really thought about this too much, to be honest. When I was younger, we would watch it was a lot of kids kiddie kind of shows, because I was only allowed to watch certain channels on the TV, and we only had certain channels. So a lot of people had Teletoon, or they had Family Channel and stuff like that, which had a lot of weird cartoons and stuff like that. But I was only allowed to watch TVO Kids, which were more educational type shows, like Arthur and stuff like that. That I feel even still will probably age okay, because it's very educational. It's not saying anything too controversial. I also wasn't allowed to watch shows things like Simpsons and stuff like that. So that also, I was very limited in the amount of kinds of things that I could watch. Things that I was allowed to watch was things like Happy Days and I don't know. So I can't really think of something that I would go back to and that not watch. Obviously the kid shows, I probably wouldn't watch that now. Maybe when I have a kid, if I have a kid someday, I could go back to it. I know I've seen revamps of certain shows like Scooby-Doo.
Yeah.
And I know Arthur has had a revamp in the last little while or whatever. And I've seen little snapshots of the animation, and it just feels like it's very polished and not what it was when I was younger. So I'm sure those kind of things would probably rubbed me the wrong way a little bit. But yeah, I haven't really gone and done that. And maybe after this call, I'm going to be like, oh, there's something. I remember it.
Yeah, we're going to remember all kinds of things.
I'm going to be kicking myself later, but yeah, I haven't really thought of that.
Yeah, there's so many out there, right? That are, I mean, how many TV series, how many TV shows are there?
Yeah.
I have a question.
Yeah.
We try and keep the show in some way as a beneficial thing to watch.
Right.
What kind of takeaway can people take from our experiences watching TV shows? So I thought, what lessons have you guys learned from these TV shows? What life lessons have you taken away from watching any specific show? Like for me, I'm thinking of MASH, the TV show MASH, and all the life lessons that were given in that show.
Okay.
Right up to their very ending show, the last episode ever, where the colonel flew away and his helicopter crashed and he died, and like the saddest thing ever, but one of the most watched season finales of or finales of any show ever. It was such a powerful show in so many ways. I took a lot away from that as a young person watching it, about how the stresses were at war and what people had to go through in these lifestyles, and how I should be more appreciative of what the sacrifices were that they gave. Because that was one of the first shows that I saw anything about war and stuff, right?
Yeah.
So with that in mind, what do you guys think? What lessons may you have learned from watching a show?
Well, my childhood was very similar to Aurora's in that we weren't allowed to watch a lot of the shows, right? We watched.
That's so sad to hear.
We had one television, and it was whatever mom wanted to watch. And if mom was sleeping and she woke up, right, because even dad had even gone to dad was obviously an electrical engineer, and he had gone to the point where he made a little distribution block that we could plug headphones into, so there could literally my sister and I watching TV and listening to it through these little headphones and whatnot, and my mother would still wake up and she'd light her smoke and turn the goddamn thing off, and that was it, right? That was the end of whatever you were watching. But even like family TV night, it was mom watched the news, which is probably why I don't watch the news now, but it was all anything mom wanted to watch, right? I mean, I've probably seen the movie The Sound of Music 40 times in my lifetime, because every time it was on, my mother watched it, right?
We need to do a show about how badly our mothers screwed us up, but that's another show.
We gotta have to get my therapist on the show with me if we're gonna do that. But yeah, so for me, there wasn't a lot of that. Now, what we did watch was Aurora, you said Happy Days. And so at lunchtime, when I was a child, my sister and I walked home for lunch. We didn't eat because mom was asleep, but we sat in front of the TV and we watched Happy Days and Leave It to Beaver. And then we went back to school, because you got an hour for lunch, and it was just about an hour, and it was like a 3-minute walk back to the school. So that's what we did for lunch. We watched TV and then went back to school with empty stomachs. So that's what we watched. The Leave It to Beaver was, and even Happy Days had a lot of good messaging in it, right? There was a lot of, they would get up to some tomfoolery, and then there was always sort of a life lesson, right? There was some sort of a moral story. So I think a lot of that, they did a good job with those shows, saying that things like, borrowing dad's car without asking was bad, or taking money out of mom's purse, or whatever the message was that you want to do. Like, I mean, ultimately it came down to be a good person, don't be a dick, and don't lie. And a lot of the messages were, because they would get caught up in their lies.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, those are probably the lessons that I
would say with like The Good Place. Sorry if I cut you off. The Good Place, I learned a lot about like ethics, morals and ethics, and like different philosophers and stuff like that, which I wasn't expecting going. Like, I feel like there's a lot of shows they do have like, good life lessons, like interesting tips and tricks with life, and like you're right, like getting caught up in lies or getting caught up in a rumor or whatever it may be is definitely a very common like lesson in a lot of TV shows, and I think it's good that they have these lessons. But literally many episodes of The Good Place is actual philosophy and morals and ethic lessons that are going on throughout the show. And it's interesting because a lot of this, when they're having the lesson, a lot of the things apply to like a later dilemma that happens in the show. If you really
like
look for it,
kind of
if you really look for it, like in some, it's very obvious. Some episodes, it's very obvious that it comes up that way, and other ones, it's very like hidden, right? And but that lesson comes out somewhere, and you can actually see it playing out in real life, and it's very interesting. So I would say that.
Surprised nobody said All in the Family.
All in the Family.
I wasn't allowed to watch it.
Wow. See,
I don't know that show.
That was one of the ones because Mom didn't like it, so you weren't allowed to watch it. So
All in the Family was with. Let's see if I can give you a synopsis here. It's I've got something about Gilmore Girls that I pulled up here as well. But
interesting.
Family. How do they explain it? All in the Family is an American television sitcom that aired in CBS for 9 seasons from 1971 to 79. The lead character, Archie Bunker, is a loudmouth, educated bigot who believes in every stereotype he has ever heard. His wife, Edith, is sweet and not the sharpest knife in the drawer. And they have their daughter, Gloria, and their husband, Mike, all live in a working-class home. Unfortunately for Archie, he can't afford the people he disdains, or avoid the people he disdains. His son-in-law, whom Archie calls Meathead, is an unemployed student of Polish descent. He's extremely racist, he's extremely bigoted, and he hates black people. And it was the first show that had a black person character come on and be his friend. And basically it broke all these stereotypes, showing this bigot that he's not right in front of the American public in the 70s and 80s.
Interesting.
And it was, and you had to kind of look at it differently. Like, a lot of people would say that it was encouraging it, when really it was totally against it, and it was making people who are bigoted and stuff really look bad. And
but it didn't end there. Did you ever see the show Last Man Standing?
No.
So it's Tim Allen, Last Man Standing, and it is literally All in the Family, but Tim Allen. Similar to Home Improvement, he's the famous celebrity guy. He owns a sporting goods store or whatever, but he's bigoted and opinionated, and he doesn't pull his punches about politics and stuff like that, which is why the show got canceled and then re-picked up. And when it got re-picked up by the next network, there was a lot of the fourth wall got broken, where they were talking about, we can't do that, we'll get canceled, everything, and it was the tongue-in-cheek joke. But yeah, it was very, very similar to that sort of a premise.
I think it's important for television in general to take the lead when it comes to, I hate saying it, raising our children, or being responsible morally and ethically for the fact that everybody's going to watch this, and everybody's going to take their own meaning from it, and everybody's going to emulate it or act on it or be part of it or want to be like it or something. And if they're showing all this really negative stuff, then, or like, that's why I don't like all these reality shows with the pretty people, like Jersey Shore and all that, because I feel that is just breeding the problem.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Not showing a better way, just breeding the problem.
Yeah.
So,
and the problem is people then think that they can have a lifestyle like that, or they can behave like that, and it's acceptable, and it's really
right.
Yeah.
Exactly.
And the problem is a lot of them will then get out. They go out into the workforce and think that they can be that way, and it's going to work, right?
And then we have to deal with that. And
it really doesn't. It really doesn't work. We can. That's a conversation for offline, so none of us get in trouble.
Yeah.
All right. So my last question before we wrap it up here is, what are you watching now?
Ooh. Okay.
And okay, I know Bryan wrestling, but yeah.
Well, that's a given. But if I were to pull up my Ignite TV, the things that I would have recorded to watch would be the Gold shows. That's it. Gold shows, the Forge and Fire shows, Gold Rush. Cabin Masters, main Cabin Masters. Ooh, Big Brother's back on. Season 12, Episode 1. I'll watch that. Bering Sea, Gold, stuff like that. But then if I go to Netflix, now we're watching the stuff like Aurora and I have been talking about some of the things that we watch, the anime stuff. I watch, the Formula One, Drive to Survive, love that. One Piece, the animated stuff. I'm watching One Piece.
Formula One Drive to Survive on Netflix. That's season 3 now, right?
They're up to season 5. They're starting season 6 soon.
Okay, so I must have watched because they went through the whole COVID season, right?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So I did watch that one as well. I didn't know there was a new season, so I have to watch that.
Yeah, good stuff.
Yeah.
Aurora?
So right now, I'm watching Love is Blind. New episodes come out tomorrow. And it'll be done, thankfully. So that's good. But I'm currently rewatching Community. I've been talking about this. So I'm rewatching Community. I'm also watching an anime called High Score Girl, which is about like this kid who like loves video games, and then he bumps into like a girl at the arcade who also loves video games, but not the type of girl that you would assume in an arcade who would love video games. Like she's like the most rich girl in school, the most pretty girl in school, who has like all, the stuff that she loves. And she seems very quiet and whatnot, but she loves video games and she's really good at video games, and she aggressively, like when she loses, she like gets aggressively mad about being losing at this, and it's just this friendship between these two people who love video games. So that's what I'm currently watching. But I will say, like, I recently finished watching one of my all-time favorite shows ever, which is an anime also. And I will watch that over and over again. It's called Death Note.
Okay.
If I'm going to recommend anything, like if anybody's going to watch an anime, I'd recommend Death Note to be like one of the first animes that they would watch, because it's a really, really good show. Yeah. Do not watch the
movie.
The movie. It's just awful. Do not.
Yeah, the movie was not great, although it had Willem Dafoe in it.
It did, and Willem Dafoe was probably the only good thing about that movie,
yeah,
I will say.
Agree, yeah, it wasn't a great movie.
Did you watch Death Note, the actual, like the
No.
anime? No,
it's the movie, yeah.
Okay.
So for me, what we're currently watching is Chicago PD. Because my challenge is when Chris is not home, I have to watch things that aren't on our watch list, because
nice.
She'll save it up and watch together. That makes
sense. So we sit watch together. Now, I mean, we as I said earlier in the show, we did start rewatching Grey's Anatomy. But she messaged me and said, "Do you mind if I keep watching, so I can miss a few episodes of Grey's Anatomy, and I won't be all heard about it." But for me, I generally binge watch one show. I'll watch it until it's done, and then I pick another one. So I finished recently. I watched Archer.
Oh yeah.
Archer and Jack Ryan and Burn Notice. So I've been watching a lot of movie TV shows about spies and ex-military guys and stuff. So
I'm surprised you didn't say Criminal Intent Toronto.
Is that a thing?
Yeah, Criminal Intent in Toronto now.
But I did watch Rookie Blue, which was based in Toronto. That was a cop show based in Toronto. It went a few seasons. It was an alright show. It was decent.
Yeah, very Canadian.
But Canadian. It was good. But I've watched a lot of the cop shows on my own, because Chris doesn't like them. So those are safe for me to watch when she's not home.
Very cool.
Is there any shows that you guys are looking forward to new episodes coming out, or like new season?
I can't wait for The Circle to come back. Apparently 2025 they're coming back, so long time to wait.
Yeah. Station 19, I think, is supposed to have another season coming out, one more season, which is, I think it's, where is it set? It's set in Seattle. The same. It's Station 19 is kind of funny because it's an offshoot of Grey's Anatomy, so a lot of the characters cross. And even Chicago PD, I've watched Chicago Fire, and so like the police respond to an accident, and the fire crew that's there is the crew from Chicago Fire. So they do a lot of crossing on some of these shows.
That's cool.
Yeah.
What about you?
For me, I have a few. So Umbrella Academy, the last season's coming out this year. So that's like really high on my list. Stranger Things, the last season's coming out. I don't know exactly when, but it's coming out
I don't know
again.
what to expect from that one.
Pardon?
I don't know what to expect from the new seasons of either Umbrella Academy or Stranger Things. We've watched them both, so.
Yeah, Bridgerton is also coming out. And I haven't talked about this, but I really do like Bridgerton. I like a lot of period pieces, and I love romance, so it's like a perfect.
Did you watch Outlander?
No.
So if you like the period ones, Outlander's probably a good one for you, Chris. And I watched.
My friend Ross likes Outlander so much that's his license plate on his car. Outlander.
Oh, interesting. Yeah. So Umbrella Academy, Stranger Things, Bridgerton, and A Circle is one of them. And then there's another anime called Komi Can't Communicate. And apparently there's a new season coming out of that at some point. And I really like it because it's about this girl who has like social anxiety and she's like trying to make friends. And it's kind of relatable. So
I get that.
I like that. I like that.
Cool. Except I'm not trying to make friends. I have a dog. I'm good.
Not interested.
Yeah.
Well,
it's just wholesome.
That was a fun conversation. We got into a lot of different shows.
Yeah, it was a lot. I mean, we could probably talk for hours about something like that. But
we can keep going on and on. But instead of doing that, I have the word, the expression, the thing of the show.
Yes.
And I've got a good one this time.
A good one.
Okay.
Right.
You guys are going to love this.
I'm excited.
So I tried to find out like regular words that we would use every day, where they actually came from. That would be a bit weird.
Mm.
So I'm going to say what the word is, and I want to get what you guys think is the origin of this word.
Yeah.
Are we ready for this?
We're ready.
All right. Cool. The word is avocado.
Interesting.
The word avocado.
I had avocado on my. I had avocado on my toast this morning.
Did you have avocado on your toast? Wait till you find out where the word comes from.
Stereotype.
I know. It's a big stereotype, but it's good for you. So.
Fucking Norton.
Personally, I think avocados are horrible because the water that they use and the way that they're being grown and like the criminal backgrounds behind the avocado trade. There's a lot of crazy things that go on in the avocado world, so I won't eat them for that reason. But I do like guacamole, so it's kind of.
I pronounce it phonetically, and I call it an avocado. So.
Okay, so where does the word avocado come from?
Avocado, I don't know.
Aurora?
I have no idea.
No guesses?
Okay.
Nothing.
Okay, let me. It was the. It was I can't remember his name. It was a Mayan emperor, and he had his geneticists make a plant to emit a fruit that was essential in healthy fats, and the avocado was the resulting vegetable.
Well, that's a really actually a very good guess. That's a very good guess. Or you don't want to just go out there and try?
Wrong, but a good guess.
I mean, maybe I don't know. I always like related avocados to like eggs somehow because they kind of look like green eggs to me. So
what else do they look like? They could look like something else too, though.
Mm-hmm.
All right, let me answer this thing.
I don't know.
The word avocado comes from the Aztec word ahuacatl, which actually translates to testicles.
Nice. Yeah.
That's what avocado is named by because it looks like testicles that you had on your toast this morning, Aurora.
Oh my goodness. Wow.
It's likely the Aztecs who discovered this fruit back in 500 BC named it this because they were inspired by the texture, the shape of the fruit, and by the fact that it was considered an aphrodisiac. Not to mention that avocados also grow in pairs.
Interesting.
There you go. But again,
avocados are the testicles of the fruit world.
It's true because if you think about the testicles and the scrotum, I mean, it looks like somebody put like that extra elbow skin and they made the sack and that's.
You're going way too hard into this answer right now. It's like way too detailed, way too deep into the testicles, Mark.
Too much elbow skin. Alrighty, and on that epic disappointment, we will end the show here. If you have enjoyed the content today, if you're still here with us, please like and subscribe. If you really enjoyed it, if you think we're funny and you like it and you want Sean back, leave notes. Let's see if we can get him for the next show. I will gladly give up my elbow room for Sean to come back. And if you didn't like the show, we don't really care. Shut the fuck up. Don't like, don't subscribe, but don't tell anybody.
Keep it to yourself. Keep it to yourself.
Keep it to yourself. Like your mother always said, if you've got nothing nice to say, zip it.
Get the fuck out. That's what my mother would say.
Awesome.
All right. Thank you all very much for watching. Aurora, take care. Mark, see you soon, guys.
Take care.
Ooh, ooh, ooh. Ooh, ooh, ooh.